What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if it's your first time here. Please do consider subscribing if you like anything involving video games. This is the right place to be. So today we got another review for you guys. Like I said in my 2025 predictions or most anticipated things I want for the year, just speaking about the channel itself, I did want to also do some more reviews on this channel because as I do play these games, I do want to give my thoughts on them, whether they're old and retro or brand new or recently released. So today we're going to be talking about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. This is coming from Machine Games. We did get a teaser for this back at the Xbox showcase in 2021. Not much shown, it was just a 30-second showcase, knowing that we're getting it made by Bethesda and Machine Games, and then also Todd Howard's going to be executive producing it. Then earlier at the Developer Direct in 2024, we did get a first look at the gameplay and a look inside the studios just for how this game was going to be made and everything going along with it, and the details and designs and just some insight from the developers. And it really surprised a lot of people. Now, some people were really excited to see what it was going to be. So getting to see Machine Games show off their id Tech, which they use for the Doom games, and they really, and Wolfenstein as well. And our first look at Harrison Ford in a video game setting just looked really good for a lot of people. Now, there was some skepticism because of the game being shown in first person, as Machine Games is obviously a first person developer, right? They make first person shooters, and people are saying, okay, how is that going to work with the Indiana Jones game? And it didn't matter. It actually worked out really well. And me myself, I do like the Wolfenstein games that they came out with recently. Obviously, we're still waiting on a Wolfenstein 3. Will that come out? Who knows? But I did want something a little different than Uncharted and Tomb Raider, which we know that technically those games are heavily inspired by Indiana Jones historically, but we did want to see something a little different. So yeah, there was some skepticism there, but it's like, okay, can we get something different than just the third person, swinging from this, solving this puzzle type of adventure games? Could we get something a little different and see what Machine Games had to say about it? Now, just a little background on the game. It does say, uncover one of history's greatest mysteries in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, a first-person, single-player adventure set between the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. The year is 1937. Sinister forces are scouring the globe for the secret to an ancient power connected to the Great Circle, and only one person can stop them: Indiana Jones. You'll become the legendary archaeologist in the cinematic action-adventure game from Machine Games, the award-winning studio behind the recent Wolfenstein series, and executive produced by Hall of Fame game designer Todd Howard. And as I mentioned earlier, let's talk about the art direction a little bit for the game and the graphics. It looks really good. I played on my, I have a 4070 graphics card, so I played on PC, 4K, all ray tracing on ultra settings and everything, and everything just ran really smooth. The different locations and biomes, I mean, you're going everywhere from the tombs in Giza to the Himalayan mountains to the Vatican in Italy, and just the environments, the facial expressions. I think the facial expressions as well as like the voice acting melded really well together. The cinematic scenes in this game, so when I forget how many hours they said that it had of cinematic scenes, I heard something like 10 hours or something crazy, which I don't think was accurate, but I thought that was going to take away from the game. I thought it was going to turn into a real movie, and honestly, it didn't. I think the cinematics were used really well. They melded well into the game. The game was pretty much like a playable movie, but not in a bad way. There's obviously the adventure elements to it, but just being able to sit back and watch a cutscene for, 3 minutes or so really added to the experience of letting you get like engrossed into the game. The description called it an action adventure game, but I would more so call it like an adventure sim with some action elements in it. That's what I would really call it, because the game, like I said, looks great and everything, but it's more so a exploration game with puzzles and codes to decipher and things like that, with the occasional action of fighting, some stealth. And they did a really good job with the simulation elements to it too, as far as if you're going to lift something, you push the joystick in a certain direction to lift it, or to wipe away a cobweb, or just, being that really immersive part of it, or turning a key and lifting the doorknob as you open a door, things like that really add to the character of the game and make it more of that, the blend between the video game and movie spaces. Now let's talk about the story a little bit. Of course, not trying to give any spoilers. This is a spoiler-free review, but pretty much a giant breaks into the museum or the school that Indiana Jones works with. He steals an artifact, but it was kind of like a random artifact, and Indiana Jones has no idea why he stole it, because it's like, okay, there's more to this than meets the eye. So you're pretty much traveling around the world trying to figure out what is the key to these mysteries, and then you find out that there's something called the Great Circle, that you're in you're in a race against the Nazis, are also after it as well. So there are these items called these stones, and these stones connect together at these places around the world that create the Great Circle. No one knows what the Great Circle is necessarily, but you're on your way to find out. And then you come across different people as you're traveling, specifically this woman named Gina, who then, she's looking for her sister Laura. So, as typical in some of these stories go, she does tag along with you, and you guys develop that real relationship and friendship, and caring for each other, because you're going through these things and technically you have separate goals, but you end up really caring for each other and trying to accomplish your goals together. And this all adds to the experience of the game, which I've been saying throughout this video, right? Like, everything is part of an experience. Video games are something you experience, not just, it's not a passive hobby. So as you're playing through the game, everything part of it, from the id Tech graphics to the simulation elements to the story itself, they all really pull you into the game. And me, I didn't think I'd spend as many. I think I spent over 50 hours into this game, and I didn't think I was going to do that, because there was nothing that said I was going to spend that much time. But I would check like periodically after I was done playing to see how much time, and it'd be like, oh, you spent 30 hours or 40 hours, and I'm just like, dang, and I'm not even close to done with the game yet. So it's definitely that type of game that you really experience and really enjoy all the elements coming together. And now, speaking of the elements, let's talk about the gameplay, right? That's the main part of the game. So like I said earlier, a lot of people were skeptical because Machine Games is known for their first person, shooter games, the Wolfenstein series. And this game, trust me, whether it's first person or third person, it does it perfectly well. And it actually has a mix of it. So what it does is you play in first person, but then when there'll be certain parts where let's say you're climbing or swinging with your whip or anything else like that, and it'll shift to third person so you can see yourself, and then it seamlessly shifts back to first person, which I think is a great middle ground. Because I know some people just want that, third person see yourself the whole time. But I think it does really good job being part of that, stealth and immersive part. Being in first person is a lot more immersive, you know what I mean? And now when you talk about how you traverse through the world, there are, the typical, climb on this ledge or swing from this and get to the next thing. And there's the regular puzzles that, in adventure games, like we said with the Tomb Raider reboot or Uncharted, where you have to solve different adventure puzzles and put everything together, and there are secrets to go through, so there are secret optional puzzles and tunes. But even outside of the puzzles are the regular mechanical things that work together. There's also deciphering things and codes and reading extra letters and collectibles that you find that really add another element to the game, because yes, puzzles are fun, but also deciphering and understanding how codes work together is a whole nother element to the game. Either way, whether you're discovering, whether you're solving puzzles, whether you're collecting things, you'll get these things called adventure points, and those adventure points can be used to purchase different perks. But instead of just having a skill tree, what this game does is there are these things called adventure books that you find around the world, or the whatever level you're in, and you can then, after you find those books, you can upgrade different abilities, whether it's more stamina or more health, or your attacks with melee weapons being stronger, things like that. And again, it keeps adding into that immersive elements of the game. It would be easy to just get adventure points, upgrade your abilities, and keep it moving, but the fact that you have to find these different books to upgrade specific abilities. Some of them you don't want to upgrade, you don't care about it, but it just adds to it as well. The structure they kind of had for a lot of the levels, but not all of them because it would become too monotonous, is pretty much half or so of the levels are just a straightforward, you go through, you do what you got to do to progress the story, but then you have these other open world kind of levels where you're searching for medicine bottles to upgrade your health and your stamina. You're searching for different landmarks and things to gain adventure points. You're searching for mysteries and solving different codes and opening boxes and getting more money so that you can, you know, buy things and buy more things from the shop, which could be adventure books, it could be anything. So I think the whole structure of the game is adventure, searching around, trying to find things, upgrading, and, you know, really putting forth that effort to not just, oh, I got money or I got adventure points, I could buy stuff, but you have to actually go and seek out these unlockables and, you know, a way to actually upgrade your skills. When it comes to the combat though, you have your typical, you know, hand-to-hand combat, but then you also have the ability to, you can parry, you can dodge and block, and even the AI, you know, the enemies, they can do it too. Now, when you're progressing or trying to go through and traversing through certain parts of the levels, the Nazis, so you can attack them stealthily, and I'm not the biggest stealth guy. I think I've said that a million times, but there's not a ton of guns blazing opportunities, I would say, like especially if you're in a restricted area, because as soon as you shoot a gun or an enemy shoots a gun, someone blows a whistle, and then now you got 100 people chasing you. Now, if you go around stealthily, knock people out, try to hide their bodies, and then that alarm goes off, it's a little easier to, you know, to fight and combat. But to be honest, once you hear that whistle go off and they're alerting the other enemies, it's kind of hard to get out of there alive. I'm not gonna lie. Once you getting shot from 8 different angles, and it's just, yeah, it's not a fun time. So some things I didn't like about the gameplay was, like I mentioned earlier, with the open world and being able to search and things like that. So the one thing I didn't like is there's no real fast travel, like easily accessible fast travel options. Now, the only fast travel there is these signposts that you have to find each one in order to, you know, fast travel to them, which is fine, but you can only do that if you're at a signpost. So you find a signpost and then you can fast travel to another signpost that you've been to before. With a game with certain maps that are this big, like, and there's no vehicles that you can use, you're pretty much running around the entire map to try and do everything you need to do. When you hop back in between certain areas that you want to revisit, you are going to be in the same area that you left off at, which means you have to get out of the area you're at. Sometimes you're deep in a tomb or something the last time you left off, and now you got to try and figure out how to get out just to get to the area you want to. I thought this was a pretty bad design. Like, I don't know why they did it like that. I feel like there should have been an easier way, considering the game encourages you to explore. There should be an easier way to move around. The other thing I didn't like is when I mentioned about, you know, being alerted and the guards, and if you shoot your gun and everything like that, is you pretty much can grab any type of item to hit people with. Like, you get fly swatter, a guitar, a hammer, whatever, and stealthily knock people out. There need to be some type of silencer for a gun or something like that. Like, I get it's not a, you know, James Bond type of stealth game, but it's like you're really limiting the guns blazing, you know, element to stealth games, that you don't really have the option, because as soon as you shoot a gun, that's it. It's loud, everybody's following you, there's dogs chasing you. Like, they needed a quiet way to do guns blazing. I know that sounds crazy to say guns blazing, but even with the guns blazing, you not necessarily guaranteed to get through it alive. So it's kind of like I feel like they could have had some type of option with that. And I guess that is trying to encourage you to use more stealth. But I think if you're going to give us the option for real, not, hey, you have the option, but it's the worst option. I don't think that should have been part of the game. And speaking of stealth, you also have these disguises that you can wear in different levels that'll help you get around, you know, Nazis and fascists and stuff like that. And again, talking about that, you know, different levels of stealth, yes, you can wear this and kind of walk around and go undetected, but then there are generals that are Nazis that are a little more smart, than the average Nazis that are walking around. They'll look at you, even though you're wearing a disguise, and be like, hey, wait a second, something's off. Try and go up and talk to you, and then they'll notice, okay, you're wearing disguise, and then alert. And I do like the different disguises that they have in the game. Like, you could be a pastor, you could be a fascist, you could be someone from the desert. You could wear a whole bunch of different outfits, but it really, again, if someone of a certain ranking sees you, then they're going to alert everybody else, and then you're kind of, you got to fight your way out of it. And I know it sounds cliche, but I really like the attention to detail with certain parts of the game. Like, this is small, but I noticed I was crawling through a small space in a tomb. I had my lighter on me, and as I'm sliding through, the wind or the direction that I'm going the opposite way, the lighter, the flame is blowing the opposite way. Like, yeah, you could say, okay, that's a simple mechanic in a game, but if they didn't do that, I probably wouldn't have noticed that much. But the fact that they did add that element is something I noticed when I was playing. I was just like, oh, that's a great detail. Or we were talking about disguises earlier. There's an ability that you can buy through an adventure book where if you get knocked out or killed, that you can pick up your hat and then you get like 1 bar of life to come back. If you're wearing a disguise, technically you're not wearing your lucky hat, the Indiana Jones, iconic hat. You're not wearing it. So when you wear a disguise, you don't have that ability. Now, again, that might sound like a small little detail that, or like a common sense kind of detail, but when you think about it, in most games, if you unlock an ability or a skill, you would just have that skill and that's it. It wouldn't be contingent on you wearing this or that unless it said that specifically, like, hey, this is for this. But it's just like small little details like that that really, again, immersion, getting you sucked in, pause, you locked into a game and really enjoying the elements. And I just really appreciate that from the developers. Now let's talk about the, lasting appeal, replayability of the game. So how long to be had the game at around 15 hours if you're just going straight through, not, doing any sightseeing or extra adventure stuff or whatever. And then it had it at 25 hours if you do the side quests as well. And then it had it at 37 and a half if you're a completionist. And that was kind of crazy to me because, like I said, I spent over 50 hours in the game and I probably only got maybe 70% of all the collectibles and everything like that. Like, I went through, I tried to do as much as I could, but stuff seemed a little bit redundant, as I mentioned, like with the design of the game. I think they broke up the levels really well, where you had some of the more open world levels, and then you broke them up with the, linear, just go through and finish, progress the story, and then bring back another open world level. I think they did a really good job with that. But I think with all the collectibles, there's a secret ending where you have to get all these secret relics. There's like 50 of them. I got only like 34 just naturally. You need all those to get the secret ending. So there's plenty to come back to the game and play over and over and over again, revisit certain areas, find the different abilities and collectibles and adventure books that you didn't get the first time. Now for a final score, I am giving this game a 9 out of 10. Yes, not perfect. Obviously, like I mentioned, there's some flaws with like the combat and the stealth, which is, a big part of the game, obviously, as you're playing through it. But I think they did a really good job as far as melding the, the cutscenes with what's going on with the story, how you're traversing through the game, the different characters, the voice acting. They did a really good job. They even had some other actors that I've seen in other stuff, like my girl from, what's her name, the police chief from Mayor of Kingstown. She was in this. Troy Baker did a really good job being Harrison Ford. And yeah, the story was intriguing. The puzzles really had me thinking. Some of the codes, the collectibles, and how they, you read different clues, try and solve and open treasure chests and things like that, that really had you thinking outside the box. So I think Machine Games, they showed out. They did what they were supposed to do. It got an 86 on Metacritic, which I thought was pretty good. I'd say that's accurate. I'm not mad at that. 86, basically 8.6. User score 8.4. So definitely not bad at all. It's on Game Pass. It is coming to PS5 in the spring. So if you have a PlayStation 5 and you just want to wait, hey, You could do it. I don't care what you playing on. I just really recommend everybody that gets a chance or has the ability to play this game. But all that being said, I'm done. I'm out. Great game. Check it out if you can. I appreciate it. If you do like this video, please leave a like. Check all the links in the description. Leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Check out my other videos, and I'll catch you on the next one.